Growing up, I had many siblings. I was the 10th child, and there were 6 boys and 8 girls. We were quite an unusual family. We were all homeschooled right from the get-go, and we lived in a really secluded area. You see, we owned a farm, and that was where we grew up our whole lives. My days were spent playing with my brothers and sisters and working on the farm, as well as doing schoolwork. I never knew my mother, but my father was tough and rarely tolerated any misbehavior. I was honestly quite scared of him. I don't have too many memories from when I was really young, but I remember growing up and noticing my older sisters weren't around anymore. They seemed to just disappear. It was strange, but there were so many of us, 14 for Pete's sake. And so it didn't really affect me too much. But then I got to the age of 15, and that's when I started to notice things were off. My older sister, Amy, had disappeared right after her 18th birthday. She hadn't even said goodbye. My father said she had left to go find work somewhere else, but that was so unlike her to leave without even saying goodbye. That's when my suspicions first arose. My older brothers, however, were still at the farm. Some of them were in their 30s. It was strange and seemed too weird to be a coincidence that every girl over the age of 18 had left to work, as my father said. It just didn't make any sense. And then I started to wonder about why I wasn't allowed to leave the farm. When we were growing up, my father had made it clear that leaving the farm was forbidden. But I wanted to see the world. I wanted to go out there and travel. But my father wouldn't let me, and I didn't even know where to begin. You see, we had no internet, no electronics, none of those modern conveniences. I didn't even know which direction to head in. All around us were endless expanses of farmland. As the years went by, there was only one girl left in our family, my little sister, Kate. I loved her so much, and it was coming up to her 18th birthday soon. I wondered if she would abandon me like the other girls did after their 18th and go seek work. But Kate told me she was scared. She said she thought the other girls were kidnapped or forced to leave. I was so shocked, but I promised her I would protect her. We all celebrated her birthday. It was strange as there were only 2 girls left in the entire house. Then, at night, we arranged to meet in her bedroom and see what might happen. No one came for ages. Maybe my sister was being paranoid about thinking she might be kidnapped. But then, at around midnight, something happened that changed my life forever. Suddenly, my father opened the door, along with 3 other men wearing red hoods. My father was shocked to see me there, but he grabbed Kate and told her she had to leave. I tried and struggled to save her, but they ended up tying me up and restraining me. I could do nothing but watch as they stole Kate from me. The next day, my father came into the bedroom. He untied my ropes. "What's going on? Where's Kate?" I demanded immediately. My father sighed. "There's something I have to tell you." That's when he told me the truth. He was part of a cult, and every woman in our family had to leave at 18 and join the cult to become a worker. His cult believed women were good for nothing except slavery. I couldn't believe my father would do such a thing to his own daughters, too. But I pretended I agreed with him. "That sounds awesome," I said. But in reality, I was formulating a plan to help save my sisters. I pretended I was interested and that I wanted to help him, too. There was only one girl left in our family, Sarah, and her birthday was happening in a few days. I told my father I would help him take her to the cult. "It's Sarah's birthday soon, right? I'll help you," I said. My father was hesitant, but after I begged and begged, eventually he agreed. When the day came, I helped drag Sarah from her room and brought her into the car. She was so scared, and it broke my heart to be a part of this, but this was the only way I could save all my sisters. My father started the engine and we drove away. It was creepy being with the hooded men in the back seat, with their silence and red robes. Sarah gripped me tightly, and I tried to tell her with my eyes that I wouldn't let anything bad happen to her. After many hours of driving silently, we arrived. We pulled up to this huge stone house, a mansion with dozens of windows. It was the middle of the night when we arrived, but there was already someone waiting there. A man, dressed in the strangest medieval clothing, greeted us. "Welcome," he said. "My name is Thomas. His eyes fell on Sarah. "Excellent. Thank you. I shall prepare her for her purpose." He gripped Sarah's shoulder and guided her into a separate room. I decided I had to let him take her. I needed to know more before I could try to rescue my sisters. After Thomas returned, I asked for a tour of the house, and Thomas happily obliged. On my way, I spotted my sisters, all working like servants around the house, scrubbing floors, cooking food, and they looked at me hopefully. I tried to hint at them that I was trying to work out a way to help them escape. Finally, I spotted my chance. The man had ordered all the women, there were dozens of them, to file into the huge living room so he could show them off. They all wore white robes and headbands. In a huge crowd, I spotted all 8 of my sisters, including Sarah, who was now wearing the same white clothing. I wondered why they hadn't tried to escape yet, but when I glanced around the house, I realized all the windows and doors were bolted shut. After the tour, I realized there was nothing I could do right now to help these poor girls, but I would come back and try to rescue them another time. For now, I needed to devise a plan. When I returned home, I realized I needed a phone to call the police. I searched around the house but couldn't find anything. My dad had the keys to the car, so it would be hard trying to get anywhere. But then I decided I had to steal it from him. At night, I slipped silently into his bedroom. He was fast asleep. I knew he hid the car keys somewhere here. I looked through his cupboard and drawers, but couldn't find it anywhere. Then, I heard a sound behind me and was shocked to see my father, awake, sitting up in bed. In his hand, he held the car keys. "Looking for these?" he asked. "Please, Dad," I said. "We have to save my sisters. How could you do this to your own daughters? Can't you see they're suffering?" "It's the only way," replied my father. I shook my head. He was crazy. I decided there was no other way about it. I rushed forward and tried to grab the keys from him. We struggled for a bit, but eventually I gained the upper hand, and I managed to tie his wrists like he had done to me before. I grabbed his keys and without hesitation bolted from the room to the car. I started up the engine. I had never driven before, but after pressing some pedals and moving the gear stick around, I managed to get the hang of it. I decided to head in the direction of the cult's mansion. I had memorized the route from last time. I remembered spotting an old-style phone on our tour of the mansion. Maybe I could call the police from there. But I wasn't sure if it was just a fake phone for decoration or a real working phone. It had looked really ancient, so I couldn't be sure. When I arrived, I managed to sneak in and get the phone. When I picked it up, I felt relief wash through me as I heard the sound through its headpiece. I made a quick call to the police, explained my location, and they said they would get there as soon as possible. I thought I had done it, but suddenly, Thomas appeared in the room. He looked furious. He ordered guards to grab me, and suddenly I was tied up again. Thomas said I would have to be silenced for what I had done. I was scared he would kill me then and there, but instead, he locked me up in a dungeon they had downstairs. I found Amy there. "What are you doing here?" I asked worriedly. I talked back to him, so Thomas said I had to be silenced, she said. We were in separate cells, but I tried to give her words of encouragement. In truth, I was at a complete loss. I didn't even know if the police knew where I was, or if they would manage to get here in time. We waited hopelessly for our fate, and then we heard police sirens. Rescue was here! The police arrived, arrested the man, and freed all the women. They managed to find some keys and unlock our cell. My sisters were free. I explained everything to the police. Sadly, my father had to be arrested too, and some of my brothers were arrested because they apparently had helped kidnap their sisters. I was shocked by this news, but it was the right thing to do. Now, there are only 10 siblings in the house, with 8 girls and 2 boys. I am the oldest in the house, so I've taken up the duty of looking after everyone and making sure the farm still runs smoothly. But just a few days after the incident, the cult was back for revenge, and they broke into our farmhouse and put warning signs all over, spray-painted in red. "Watch out, we're coming for you." We decided it wasn't worth keeping the farm and still having the cult on our backs, so we decided to sell it and move into the city. Now, my siblings are all living their own lives, and we're all better for it. Every Friday, we make sure to meet up and maintain our relationship. My sisters love me, especially for what I did to help them. As for my father and brothers, I haven't visited them in jail, but they're due to be released in a few years. I guess I'll have to meet them in the future, but for now, I'm happy. And I'm happy my sisters are safe.